The dangerous traps designed to keep you poor. Nobel Prize-winning economists Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo are leading experts on global poverty. To understand why people fall into poverty and how they can escape it, they spent 15 years researching poor communities in 18 countries and regions. Their findings reveal that people often remain poor because they fall into a series of poverty traps. Even more ruthless is the fact that these traps are almost deliberately designed to keep them in that state. First, the trash can trap. Do you think poor people would spend frugally to overcome their struggles? In reality, they often spend more extravagantly than the average person. Abhijit shares the story of Park, a farmer in Indonesia. Park was frail and unable to work to earn money, so he lived in constant poverty. But when Abhijit visited his home, he was shocked to find many items there, such as a TV, a DVD player, a mobile phone, tea, coffee, and sugar. These luxury goods were in stark contrast to Park's impoverished life. In slums, many people are like Park. They're willing to risk being evicted for not paying rent just to buy a 62-inch TV. They'll eat instant noodles for 29 days just to have one lobster feast, or they'll buy anti-wrinkle cream, but endure the cold because they can't afford heating bills. No matter how much you advise them, poor people can't resist the temptation to spend. When they have a little money, they lack the ability to restrain their desire for instant gratification. And so, they fall into the consumption trap designed by producers. Recently, shopping malls have made a fortune during holidays, and flower shops have been endlessly busy. But right after the holidays, trash bins are overflowing with discarded gifts like fresh flowers, stuffed animals, lipstick, and perfume. Such trash can traps are everywhere in life. Have you noticed that almost every holiday has been turned into a shopping frenzy by businesses? Just by watching a few short videos, you might impulsively buy a few items. You think you'll save money during Singles Day, but you end up adding things to your cart that weren't in your plan. Producers are experts at three things. First, creating demand out of thin air. Second, dividing social structures through consumer goods. Third, finding ways to accelerate your consumption speed. From a first cup of autumn milk tea, treat yourself trip, to a lavish once-in-a-lifetime wedding, producers are always finding ways to drain your wallet. When you follow consumption trends without realizing it, that's when you start walking down the path to poverty. Second, the pleasure trap. In the 1990s, as labor productivity increased and competition became fiercer, the wealth gap and social stratification in the U.S. became a major issue. To keep the poor from rebelling, U.S. National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski proposed the titainment theory, a hypothesis about keeping the poor entertained and distracted. He suggested giving 80% of the marginalized population a pacifier. This pacifier could be forms of entertainment that provide instant gratification, such as the pornography industry, video games, or mass entertainment like TV dramas, reality shows, and so on. By continuously providing the poor with these pleasures, they'll get caught up in them, forever immersed, unable to break free, and stuck at the bottom of society. Have you ever felt this? When studying in a library for just a short while, you feel restless and can't resist pulling out your phone to play a few games. Or when you start working for only a brief moment, you get drawn into short videos that pop up, scrolling for an entire hour without realizing you've lost your focus and precious time. Time and focus are the most valuable things in this era. While we're being drawn into computer and TV screens, the wealthy are gradually distancing themselves from online life. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to follow the channel for more money truths and tips to achieve financial freedom quickly. Think Billionaires channel welcomes you all. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, limited his children's use of tech products in the family. Game designers also steer clear of games like World of Warcraft. Many leaders of companies in Silicon Valley never touch electronic devices after work hours. Psychologist Adam Alter once candidly shared that those who produce high-tech products follow the number one rule of drug dealers. They never get addicted to their own products. Because they, the elites at the top of society, understand better than anyone that the consequence of indulging in short-term pleasures leads to only one outcome: entertaining yourself to death. Third, the rat race trap. In a small town in California, there was a young man who loved writing and was determined to become a famous novelist. Every day, he wrote without missing a single opportunity, but his book sales were far from impressive. He went to a church to ask a priest, "Why do I toil day and night writing, but my work shows no progress?" The priest didn't answer immediately, but asked in return, "What do you do in the morning?" The young man replied, "I write novels." The priest asked again, "And at noon?" He answered, "I also write novels." The priest continued, "What about in the afternoon?" Hearing this question, the young man began to lose patience. "I spend my entire day, except when eating and sleeping, writing novels." The priest responded, "Then when do you take time to think?" This young man's situation is like a rat on a wheel, running frantically to reach a piece of cheese dangling above, but in the end, just spinning in place, never getting there. Hard working and exhausted, yet the results aren't as expected. Day after day, the repetitive busyness is like running on an endless racetrack for rats, caught in the cycle of poverty. The busier you are, the poorer you get. The poorer you get, the busier you become. There's a saying that stings to hear: if being busy alone were useful, then the richest person in the world would be a donkey turning a millstone. What makes your work valuable isn't how busy you are, but the depth of your thinking. Author Lishan Long once worked as a teacher at Tandong Fuang. After some time, he requested permission from his leaders to stop teaching on weekends and evenings, even though it meant his income would drop from $4,000 to $5,000 a month. While his colleagues were busy teaching extra classes to earn money, Lishan Long stayed home reading books, watching movies, reflecting, and writing. When the education and training industry declined, many of his colleagues either lost their jobs or had to switch careers. But he had prepared in advance and found a new path, starting a company and writing books, earning millions of dollars a year. Lishan Long was busy, but not in a futile way. He concluded, "No matter how busy you are, you should set aside time to think about whether there's a better path or a fresher direction. If you keep your head down, buried in work, without ever looking up at the sky, you're likely to fall into the pit of poverty. A person too busy with trivial matters and too lazy to think will surely end up mediocre. Learning new knowledge, improving skills, making long-term career plans, and breaking free from low-quality efforts are the keys to escaping the vicious cycle of life." Fourth, the Shawshank Trap. Recently, I rewatched the classic film The Shawshank Redemption, Shawshank Prison, and was deeply moved by the fate of the character Brooks. This movie isn't just a touching story about hope and perseverance. It also reveals a profound human predicament that few notice. Brooks, the prison librarian, served over 50 years in prison. Every day, he did simple tasks, pushing a cart of books around the prison, recording the names of those who borrowed them. This light, stable job gave Brooks a sense of satisfaction, as if he had found meaning and value in life. But this very satisfaction became an invisible shackle, binding Brooks to a framework he didn't even realize. He saw this job as his lifelong career and never thought of leaving it. Until the day he was released, the outside world became alien and terrifying to Brooks. The bustling traffic on the streets frightened him. The skyscrapers made him feel suffocated. The modern world had changed too quickly compared to the prison life Brooks was accustomed to. becoming an immense challenge. When he was assigned to work at a supermarket, his situation grew even worse. His slow movements due to old age led to constant complaints from customers. He lived in stress, unable to sleep peacefully. In the end, Brooks couldn't bear it and chose to end his life just 1 year after being freed. This story vividly illustrates what's known as the Shawshank Trap. People accustomed to living in confinement and dependency often find themselves unable to adapt when they step into freedom. As the movie famously states, at first, you hate the walls around you, but gradually you get used to living within them. And in the end, you realize you need them to survive. This quote reveals the essence of the Shawshank Trap. We often don't realize we're stuck in a safe and comfortable zone, losing the ability to face change and challenges in real life. These invisible prisons are everywhere. It might be a stable job that makes you lose your ambition to grow, or a skill you've relied on for so long that it emotionally paralyzes you. Over time, you easily accept it and even feel satisfied with that comfort. But when a small change occurs, you'll discover how fragile you are, lacking the strength to withstand disruptions. At that point, the walls that once gave you a sense of safety become a cage that traps you. An ancient saying goes, change leads to progress. Stagnation leads to mediocrity. Change brings prosperity. Stagnation brings decline. Change means survival. Stagnation means death. This emphasizes the importance of change. Only by constantly evolving can we adapt to a volatile world and face challenges with resilience. Therefore, we must always be vigilant about the existence of the Shawshank Trap. We must proactively step out of our comfort zones, dare to embrace new challenges, learn new skills, and expand the limits of our abilities. Only then can we break free from being trapped in our own comfort and continue moving forward on life's journey. Always remember, the flip side of a comfort zone is a danger zone. When we become too dependent on a comfortable state of living, we fail to realize we've lost the ability to cope with change. So, keep yourself curious, eager to learn, dare to take on new challenges, and constantly push your limits. If you feel you're falling into a trap like Shawshank, try stepping outside and see what happens. The outside world might feel unfamiliar, even scary. But trust that this discomfort and fear are signs of growth. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and every change can bring unexpected results. Let's look at a study from Boston University. Boston University once conducted a very simple but fascinating experiment, revealing a key principle about behavioral change in humans. In this experiment, participants were asked to set an alarm for 6 a.m., but they were divided into two groups. The first group was instructed to place the alarm clock on their desk, while the second group was told to place it right next to their bed. This seemingly small difference led to completely different results. After 2 weeks, the experiment's results were surprising. Most people in the first group had formed a habit of waking up early, while the second group barely changed their average wake-up time. This result highlights a key principle in psychology. When the alarm rings, people instinctively turn it off and go back to sleep. But if the alarm clock is placed far away, they have to get out of their warm bed, and this action is enough to break their inertia, making it easier to start the day. This experiment connects to the Shawshank Trap in that both emphasize one thing: being immersed in comfort doesn't lead to growth. If you don't step out of your comfort zone, you'll remain stuck in place. Although the process of change may involve discomfort, taking one significant step can allow us to continually renew ourselves and aim for a better version of ourselves. The experiment also shows that sometimes change doesn't require strong willpower or drastic actions. On the contrary, by cleverly setting up the environment, we can make change easier. This is like creating a small obstacle to force ourselves to leave our comfort zone and start new challenges. However, relying solely on external environmental changes isn't enough. We also need to cultivate a positive mindset and build good habits. As Zhonghua Fan said, all illnesses stem from laziness. Laziness is the greatest enemy, preventing us from growing and progressing. A person doesn't lack talent, opportunities, or benefactors. They only fear their own laziness. Because when someone is lazy, no one can help them stand up, and they trap themselves in an even larger Shawshank trap, confined within their own small world. Zhang Fan also said, "A ruined family can't let go of extravagance. A ruined person can't let go of impulsiveness, and a despised person can't let go of arrogance." This profound saying points out the harm laziness does to a person's life. If someone is accustomed to laziness, doing nothing, or working superficially within a short time, the habit becomes second nature, and they'll no longer willingly grow, not even knowing what they're suited for. As a result, their life becomes increasingly vague, anxious, and even painful. Even when they recognize the problem, many people still can't change themselves. Because changing laziness, working harder, or facing tasks that may not yield immediate results often makes them feel scared and resistant. They fear failure, fear facing harsh realities. As the educator and writer Makarenko said, laziness is the root of all evils. Being lazy once means losing for a lifetime. The lazier a person is, the less they can grow, like someone who doesn't take an external energy and only depletes themselves. Soon, they'll feel exhausted, disappointed, pained, even hopeless. Once accustomed to laziness, it's like borrowing from life. The more you borrow, the more you owe, until you can't repay it. As the painter Su Beihong said, laziness is a costly luxury. When the payment is due, you surely won't be able to afford it. Therefore, quickly abandon the habit of laziness so you can steer clear of poverty and helplessness. Only then can we truly take control of ourselves and master our lives. Beyond overcoming laziness, we also need to elevate our thinking. True foresight allows people to have a broad perspective and a grand stature. Such people are willing to lay the groundwork for others and sacrifice themselves for the greater good. In the end, they not only earn the admiration of others, but also triumph over their own lives. In contrast, those who can't bear to see others succeed are actually refusing their own growth. They waste their energy and spirit in vain. These people have a narrow vision, shallow thinking, and a childish mindset. Not only do they refuse to grow, but they also want to drag others down, enjoying making things difficult and playing dirty games. Only when a person overcomes low-level thinking, avoids shallow actions, and stops acting with short-term perspectives can they gradually unlock their potential and focus on self-improvement. This is a long and difficult process, requiring continuous effort and perseverance, like carving a delicate piece of art. We need to carefully polish every aspect of ourselves, including accumulating knowledge, enhancing skills, developing intellect, and building character. Only by wholeheartedly improving ourselves can we see our progress and growth. Over time, we'll realize our vision is expanding. Opportunities and possibilities we couldn't see before become clear. Our understanding of the world deepens, and our attitude toward life becomes more generous. This transformation not only helps us seize opportunities and achieve success, but also ensures we never forget our initial goals and learn to help others. People with true stature always see further than others, think more thoroughly, and act more profoundly. They don't let temporary gains or losses affect their mood, nor are they easily swayed by others. Instead, they maintain a broader, higher perspective in dealing with everything. Foresight and depth help them make wiser decisions, and their actions more easily win people's hearts. They aren't discouraged by short-term failures, nor blinded by fleeting successes. Instead, they remain calm and rational, evaluating everything from a higher vantage point. As someone once said, when your vision widens, your troubles diminish. When your heart becomes vast, your path opens up. When your stature is great enough, problems disappear. When our hearts are vast, we're no longer bothered by petty annoyances. When our stature grows, problems that once seemed insurmountable become trivial. This shift in mindset not only helps us avoid poor thinking and habits, but also enriches our lives. We'll find ourselves going further, climbing higher, and living more powerfully. We're no longer limited by a narrow vision, but can showcase our talents in a broader world. Notably, poverty isn't a predetermined fate, but rather a state of mind, a result of how we think. No one is born destined to live in poverty unless they choose it. When we actively break free from poverty traps, from the mindsets and habits that hinder our growth, we pave the way for our own prosperity and freedom. This process may not be easy, much like the first group in the Boston University experiment. We may need to put in extra effort and endure discomfort. But these small changes and persistence will ultimately bring significant transformation. Every morning, we overcome laziness. Every evening, we persist in learning. Every time we conquer a challenge, we're building energy for the future. Remember, change begins with thinking, and success comes from action. When we start changing our mindset, broadening our vision, and taking action, we've begun the journey to success and prosperity. This journey may be full of challenges, but it's also full of opportunities and potential. Every step forward is the best investment in ourselves. I hope that both you and I can steer clear of low-level thinking and embrace a broader vision on life's journey. Let's go further, live vibrantly, and ultimately realize our ideals and aspirations. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this content valuable, share it with friends and family. Follow me for more money secrets. Goodbye and see you next time.